This is Nightly Business Report with Tyler Matheson and Sue Herrera.
Tensions rise. President Trump will meet with China's president in just a few days. And now we know the controversial topics the two will talk about.
Sudden resignation. A longtime Fed official is stepping down abruptly over his involvement in a 2012 case where confidential Fed information may have been leaked.
Tax tips. With just 2 weeks left to file, there are a few things that you can try to do to avoid an audit. Those stories and more tonight on Nightly Business Report for Tuesday, April 4th.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Investors know that there's a lot riding on the economic relationship between the United States and China. There's trade, of course, there's jobs. There are thorny national security issues, including North Korea and China's interests in the South China Sea. And lately, the areas of conflict between the world's two largest economy and two biggest trading partners seem to have eclipsed the areas of cooperation. President Trump has referred to China as the biggest trade cheater in the world. He's accused Beijing of killing American jobs. The White House called out China for manipulating its currency and has threatened tariffs. Later this week, President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet in what some are calling President Trump's most important meeting yet with a world leader. And tonight, the White House outlined what will be on the meeting's agenda. Kayla Tausche was on the call.
President Trump meeting with his Chinese counterpart at his Mar-a-Lago resort beginning Thursday. A 24-hour summit, parts of which will be accompanied by their wives, where the most urgent topic on the agenda is diffusing tensions with North Korea. Senior White House officials said the clock has run out on dealing with North Korea and all options for the U.S. are on the table. Specifically, President Trump is expected to ask China to exercise its economic leverage over North Korea. China, for instance, wields significant power over the country because it represents nearly all of North Korea's external trade. As for other economic topics, the president plans to discuss the barriers China has set up to investment, with the two leaders establishing a framework for working through trade and currency issues in the weeks and months to come. The White House relying on the Commerce and Treasury departments to continue monitoring these issues. And while the president is hoping to build a results-oriented relationship, senior White House officials expect no resolution on those economic issues this week. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Kayla Tausche, Washington.
David Riedl joins us now to talk more about what to expect from the meetings between China's president and President Donald Trump later this week. He is president and founder of Riedl Research Group. Welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you here, David.
Thank you.
Let's start first of all, Tyler outlined some of the campaign rhetoric that the now president used. How does he get past that and beyond that and forge a meaningful, hopefully, relationship with China's president?
Well, you're quite right to bring that up, because there's been a lot of rhetoric on the campaign trail, which is just that, rhetoric. And he's going to have to get away from demeaning them as a currency manipulator and really lashing out at them for taking American jobs. All of that is China of the past, China of the last 10 years, and the next 10 years doesn't have any interest in dumping cheap goods on the U.S. market. They're interested in transitioning peacefully at home to more consumer-oriented society. But we've already seen glimmers of Trump learning and adjusting to the realities of the playbook post the election. Remember his questioning the one China policy. He certainly backed off that pretty quickly once he got better informed about the importance of that and the importance of the Chinese-U.S. relationship.
Walk us through the matter of currencies and currency manipulation. As I understand it, while the Chinese currency is down over the past 5 years or so, it's not nearly down as much as the British pound or the Japanese yen, and in fact has been appreciating recently.
That's exactly right. This view that China is somehow manipulating its currency to the detriment of the U.S. or other markets is simply not true. If you want to point fingers at anyone who's been doing that, it's great U.S. allies like the Japanese and the British, who have seen 20–25% depreciations of their currencies over that last year. The reality is the Chinese yuan is connected to a basket of currencies. The U.S. is the largest of those currencies, so it gets dragged around by the U.S. dollar and stays very close to it.
The North Korea situation is perhaps the most volatile. How does the president negotiate that? Just the other day, he said that if China won't help, the U.S. might take on North Korea on its own, which kind of triggered a jitter through the market. How does he negotiate that?
The market's right to react strongly to that because the massive population centers and close U.S. allies in South Korea, the U.S. forces there, the large U.S. presence in Japan, and the large population there would be the first in the firing line from a rambunctious North Korea. But I think he might be right to bring up this idea that all options are on the table and we're not just going to wait for China. Waiting for China didn't work for Bush. It didn't work for Obama. And I think that he's right to reopen the dialogue with a clean sheet of paper. And hopefully the Chinese and the U.S. can get on the same page because we all need the Korean Peninsula to be less militarized and more peaceful.
We will wait and see. David, thank you very much for joining us tonight. David Riedl with the Riedl Research Group.
On Wall Street, stocks were mostly flat ahead of that big China-U.S. summit. Investors are in a wait-and-see mode because many don't want the administration basically to take a protectionist stance against the world's second largest economy. The Dow Jones Industrial's up 39 points at 20,689. The others basically flat. NASDAQ higher by 3, S&P by 1 1/3.
Infrastructure, as you know, is another pillar of the Trump administration's agenda. And today, the Transportation Secretary gave a timeline for possible legislation. Elaine Chao told a group of chief executives that a legislative package may be ready sometime next month. The secretary said she hopes to offer a package that includes $1 trillion over 10 years.
Well, an abrupt resignation inside the Federal Reserve. Richmond Fed President Jeffrey Lacker is stepping down immediately over his role in alleged leaks of confidential Federal Reserve information. Steve Leisman has the surprising details.
Richmond Fed President Jeffrey Lacker resigned unexpectedly today, disclosing that he played a key role in the release of confidential Fed information. Lacker, who has spent 13 years at the helm of the Richmond Fed, acknowledged that he spoke to a newsletter writer at Medley Global Advisors and inadvertently confirmed Fed deliberations on monetary policy. He said in a statement, quote, "I regret that in this instance I crossed the line to confirming information that should have remained confidential." On October 2nd, 2012, Lacker spoke with that Medley analyst, and Medley on the 3rd, or the next day, wrote a story with some of those confidential Fed details. Lacker was interviewed by the Federal Reserve General Counsel in December, and in 2015, he was interviewed by law enforcement officials, including from the FBI and the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. In January 2017, Lacker announced he was resigning, but it was effective October 1st. Today, Lacker announced his resignation effective immediately. Lacker's resignation, according to CNBC sources, is the result of negotiations with law enforcement officials. And his attorney, Richard Cullen, told CNBC that Lacker has been told by the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District that he will face no charges. He's being replaced by First Vice President Mark Mullinex. The Federal Reserve Board, in a statement later in the day, said it cooperated fully with the investigation. And the Inspector General of the Federal Reserve also put out a statement saying it would be concluding that investigation soon. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Steve Leisman.
The trade deficit dropped sharply in February. Exports rose to a more than 2-year high, helped by an improving global economy and a softening of the dollar. Imports of things like cars and smartphones fell. The deficit, which is the gap between imports and exports, was off 10% to about $43.5 billion. That more than canceled out a big increase in January.
Well, Boeing landed a $3 billion deal to sell 30 jetliners to Iran. It is the company's second sale to that country since the 1970s. Iran's aging air fleet is among the oldest in the world because of sanctions that were in place for decades. The average age of their planes, 20 years. Financing details not disclosed.
The airline industry is gearing up for one of its busiest summers ever. In fact, several airlines are adding flights or new routes, especially in smaller cities. So Phil LeBeau takes a look at what more seats and more flights might mean for travelers.
Summer travel is about to take off, and the airlines are planning to be ready for the surge of people getting away. For example, United Airlines is adding flights to 13 cities in the U.S., including all new service to many small cities like Columbia, Missouri. Not to be outdone, American is adding or expanding summer service to 26 cities. Meanwhile, Southwest and Alaska will also be adding flights over the next several months. What's behind this expanded service? Part of it is airlines filling in routes where they haven't been flying or they're growing in demand. But another factor is the chance for airlines to bring more customers into their hubs where they can connect with other destinations.
I think some of the cities that they're serving will be very competitive and fares will come down. They definitely are adding a lot more capacity than they thought they would maybe 6 months ago.
With a record number of people expected to fly this spring, don't be surprised if that carries over into this summer and planes are crowded. While airfares remain lower than just a few years ago, they are expected to climb this summer and hit a high of $269 for the average domestic ticket. Perhaps the biggest reason this summer will be a busy one for the airlines is consumer confidence, which remains at close to a record high, convincing many Americans the next couple of months will be a good time to get away. Phil LeBeau, Nightly Business Report, Chicago.
Still ahead, tax day just 2 weeks away. Tonight, some last-minute tips for all of you procrastinators.
A growing number of brands are pulling their ads from Fox News' O'Reilly Factor. The decision comes amid allegations of sexual harassment by the host. Bill O'Reilly has denied the accusations. There are reports that he or Fox paid about $13 million to 5 women since 2002. Some of the advertisers include BMW, Hyundai, Sanofi, and Allstate.
It is also the time of year when brands commit a lot of money to advertise on TV networks. It's known as the upfront sales period, but this year there's a shift going on, and advertisers are taking a hard look at content amid the YouTube ad backlash. Julia Borston reports tonight from Los Angeles.
New high-tech ad targeting and the safety of premium television will be front and center during this year's upfront ad sales period. Cable networks, including the Food Network and Discovery, have already pitched their lineups to Madison Avenue, showcasing their digital reach and measurement capabilities. NBC Universal is switching to total audience guarantees across broadcast, cable, and digital for the Olympics, while CBS's total content ratings include DVR and video-on-demand viewing. And in the wake of advertisers boycotting Google because of ads' proximity to offensive content on YouTube, the safety of premium video content is expected to have its appeal.
I do think there is going to be some shift because I think, a lot of the advertisers moved dollars into digital, and now they're recognizing that they need to go back to where they can actually control where their message is placed.
The big question is whether during the upfronts, TV companies will be able to secure more ad dollars or price increases. The CEO of ad giant IPG, Michael Roth, projects TV ad dollars will be flat after nearly 5% gains in 2016. There's another factor at play this spring, the debut of a number of new streaming video options, such as Hulu and YouTube's new skinny bundles, hoping to lure advertisers with a combination of traditional premium content and next-generation high-tech advertising. And Roku just announced it's partnering with Nielsen to give advertisers a measure of how many people are watching on its over-the-top platform to make it easier for them to reach the right consumers.
It is using data to inform so that you can target at the household level and the individual experience rather than just blanketing everyone with the same ad.
The majority of the top 100 advertisers say they'll increase their marketing spend this year, according to a JP Morgan survey. With growing concern about brand safety, we'll see where they put those extra dollars. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Julia Borston in Los Angeles.
Staples may be for sale, and that's where we begin tonight's market focus. The Wall Street Journal says the office supplies retailer is in talks with some potential private equity firms. The report also said a possible deal could value Staples at about $7 billion. Shares of Staples rose almost 10% to $9.51. MSG Networks might also be looking to sell itself. According to the New York Post, the regional cable and television network is in early talks with potential suitors, and telecom giant Verizon may be one of them. But the report added there's no guarantee a deal will be made. Shares of MSG Networks were up 6.5% to $24.45. Ralph Lauren is cutting jobs and closing its flagship store on Fifth Avenue in New York City. The fashion retailer also plans to restructure its digital operations. It's unclear how many positions will be affected, but the company said the moves are an extension of its cost-saving plan announced last summer. Shares fell more than 4% to $77.74.
Teva Pharmaceuticals said its drug for treating an involuntary movement disorder associated with Huntington's disease, which is a fatal degenerative condition, has been approved by the FDA. This is only the second product approved for the disorder, and Teva shares nonetheless fell 19 cents to $32 on the button. The furniture and electronics retailer Conn's said a strong fourth quarter helped it post an unexpected adjusted profit. The company did post lower revenue, though, is still good enough to impress investors. Shares of Conn's climbed nearly, 29% today to $10.90. The electric and lighting maker Acuity Brands said weak demand, particularly in North America, caused the company to report profit and sales that disappointed. Despite the miss, Acuity said it still sees long-term growth opportunities in that market. Shares fell, however, down nearly 15% to $173.93.
Tax day fast approaching, now just 2 weeks away, and no one wants to get an audit. Well, while some audits are random, others are not. NerdWallet put together a list of things that could raise red flags at the IRS. Here's Kate Rogers.
Here are 5 IRS audit red flags. At number 5, using too many round numbers. An even amount is unlikely, so round to the nearest dollar, not the nearest hundred. Number 4, claiming a home office. It must be a space used only for work. A laptop in front of your flat screen doesn't count. Number 3, claiming too many charitable donations. If you don't have the proof, don't report it. Number 2, claiming too many business expenses. If you can't perform your job without it, then it's legit. Number 1, making math errors. If it literally doesn't add up, you could be flagged. So triple check your columns because the IRS probably will. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Kate Rogers.
We are less than 2 weeks away from the April 18th tax filing deadline, and if you haven't prepared your tax returns yet, our next guest has some last-minute tips that could be helpful to you. Maybe save a little money. He's NerdWallet's personal finance expert, Sean McQuay, and he joins us now. Sean, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
What if I really just can't possibly get my taxes done? What do I do?
It's really important that we do file our taxes by the 18th, but if we can't for some reason, we always can file an extension. There's a specific form that the IRS enables. The trick is while we can file for that extension, the money is actually still due on the 18th. So that means we'll need to make a best guess of what the taxes will be, pay that, and then figure it out moving forward.
Well, how much time does that buy you?
It depends on the extension. It can be several months through the end of the year.
All right. What about filing electronically? Does that help you out or not?
So filing electronically is nice because it's a very fast process.
Right.
I personally haven't filed yet, so I fit in the procrastinator bucket.
I think that makes 3 of us.
2.
Yeah, and I'm perfect. And I'm really relying on my online tax software to be able to file quickly because I know that will happen.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about last-minute deductions I might claim. I think the only one that you can probably claim this late for 2016 taxes would be to fund fully an IRA if you haven't done so already.
That's right. Any retirement savings account, so it's an IRA or 401k, we can still contribute to through the 18th. And this is really great because it's different from normal contributions where they're, let's say, a charitable contribution, where they're simply counting against your taxes owed. These are actually decreasing your top line revenue. So it's saying I actually effectively made less. So you're decreasing your tax burden while also saving up for the future. So yeah, absolutely. These are the best kind of tax deductions to pursue at this point.
You know, a lot of people have been using different types of computer programs to do their taxes. Are there some that you've looked at that maybe are better or maybe simpler than others?
Yeah, so when you're looking at tax software, one, it's really important to remember that the IRS is the one that writes the code, not the tax preparers. So while some companies may promise to get you a higher return than others, at the end of the day, that actually doesn't make sense because, again, it's not their math, it's the IRS's math. So where do they actually differ? They differ in terms of cost, in terms of capabilities, and in terms of the user experience. And so you want to find the tax software that kind of answers the questions you want to answer and kind of helps you through with the level of hand-holding you actually want, and one that meets your personal price point.
All right, Sean, thank you very much. Sean McQuay with NerdWallet. We appreciate it. Get your filing done, man.
Will do.
Doctor, heal thyself.
I think I have to do an extension. Okay, coming up, can Amazon reinvent the very thing it disrupted? Brick and mortar retailers.
The Labor Department has decided to delay the implementation of its retirement rule. The so-called fiduciary rule, which requires brokers offering retirement advice to act in the best interest of their customers, will be delayed now by 60 days while it undergoes a review. According to a filing in the Federal Register, the review will examine whether the rule hinders Americans' ability to get access to retirement financial advice.
A Seattle law allowing drivers of ride-hailing companies to unionize has been temporarily blocked. The first such law in the nation applied to companies like Uber and Lyft. The case was brought by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which said it violates federal antitrust and labor law. Seattle lawyers said the law will make the industry safer. Uber and Lyft are members of the chamber.
And speaking of Seattle, Amazon shares closed at their 5th straight record high. A bullish analyst note helped fuel the gains today. Stock above $900. But Amazon, which is the king of online retailing, is doing something curious. It's moving into brick and mortar retail, the very thing it disrupted. Deirdre Bosa has more from Seattle.
It was once an area dominated by the likes of Borders and Barnes & Noble until Amazon showed up. Now Barnes & Noble is struggling and Borders is gone. But then something strange happened. Amazon is trying to reinvent the very thing it disrupted, brick and mortar retail. Amazon Books in Seattle was the company's first physical store, and it opened less than 2 years ago. This year, its physical bookstores are expected to be in 11 locations throughout the country. On the surface, it looks like your typical bookstore, but with titles face out and gadgets like Amazon's Kindle and Echo and Fire TV devices showcased around the space, with the likely goal of encouraging customers to join its online Prime membership program. And then there's the push for its grocery store business, with the goal of getting rid of the checkout counter. It is another technological leap that would dramatically change the way we shop by eliminating the cashier.
It's pretty cool. You just walk in and pick it up and go walk out the door. They already have those sort of self-checkout things, right? So it's just the next step.
I tend to just enjoy whatever's convenient, so I'm happy to go to a grocery store, and if it's an automated process where they're going to put groceries in my car, that seems quick and easy, and a lot of time that's better for me.
For now, brick and mortar is mostly still an experiment and a tiny part of Amazon's overall business. But it may be part of Jeff Bezos' strategy to revolutionize the retail business again. And expansion is a byproduct of that. Last year, Amazon took over a staggering 70% of all the new downtown Seattle office space that opened and continued construction on giant biospheres for its new campus in the heart of downtown Seattle. This year, it's inked a lease for another 300,000 square foot office building. It's becoming clear Amazon wants to be in every aspect of consumers' life, and that also means leaving a mark on its hometown. For a Nightly Business Report, I'm Deirdre Bosa, Seattle.
Just days ahead of that meeting between President Trump and China's President Xi, one Iowa man is talking about his rare relationship with the Chinese leader. Eunice Yoon has his story from Beijing.
Yeah, so there's my mom.
It's President Xi.
Yeah, the president was offering some of his impressions and in his famous saying, at least to this group, "To me, you are America."
For an American businessman, Gary Dvorak has an unusual connection to China's elusive president. More than 30 years ago, as a young Communist Party cadre, Xi Jinping stayed in Dvorak's Iowa bedroom on an agricultural fact-finding mission to the U.S.
He was a young man. He's in his early 30s. He was with the delegation. He was a regular person.
But this week, now President Xi is making another trip to America, this time to meet President Trump.
So this is our house. Welcome.
Dvorak, currently living in Beijing, has had dinner here with Xi Jinping. Thanks to his old family connection, he has access to top Chinese officials and negotiating tips for Trump.
The Chinese have a lot of work to do internally to develop the economy, both from domestic consumption and from more exports. So I don't think we can be as forceful as we'd like to be. We have to understand that, yes, we do need fair trade, but China ultimately is still a developing country, and they need to sell before they can buy.
So what do you think President Xi wants from this meeting?
I think he would like to have the rhetoric toned down a bit, even though it's all talk for the most part, really. culturally, the Chinese do not like that level of conflict.
What would be the worst thing that President Trump could do during this meeting?
If the public harshness translates into the private discussion across the table, I think it won't be a productive meeting.
And Dvorak's advice for President Xi?
Read The Art of the Deal. Because a lot of what he's doing, he's done over and over his whole life. That's what I think would be very helpful for President Xi, is to understand the style, understand the approach he's going to have. That helps you think of ways to disarm it.
For Nightly Business Report, I'm Eunice Yoon in Beijing.
It's going to be fascinating to see how that meeting develops.
Something tells me Xi has already read that book.
I would think so, exactly. That'll do it for Nightly Business Report tonight. I'm Sue Herrera. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Tyler Matheson. Thanks from me as well. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.